everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is our Articling and Bar Admissions Working Group Update, Lunch and Learn. My name, of course, is Kenneth Chatterpaul. I am part of the working group, and I will be leading this presentation today. Hopefully, our colleague Rebecca will be joining us a little later. So, as some of you know, the mandate for the Articling and Bar Admissions Committee is to support the ongoing review, oversight, and support of the overall Articling and Bar Admissions process in Nunavut. The committee is tasked with oversight of the overall Articling and Bar Admissions process in Nunavut to ensure students at law admitted as such are best positioned to succeed in becoming a practicing lawyer in the territory. The task force recommended abolishing Nunavut Statute's examination in its current state. This is the connection to the Nunavut Statute's exam report. After February 28, 2024, a special meeting passing the revised Nunavut Statute's examination is no longer required to be called to the Nunavut Bar. The ABA working group was created to review the recommendations put forth by the task force and to review the terms of reference to make recommendations to the executive committee about articles of clerkship, the bar admission course, bar admission examination, and any special examinations. So we have a working group. Our working group is composed of the following members: Abdullah Butt, Jessica Shabtai, Nuka Olson, Hackengak, Rebecca Jaremko Bromwich, and Santana Stahlberg, as well as myself, Kenneth Chatterpaul. The group has been together, I want to say, since July. So we met on the following dates. The working group met on July 8th, July 15th, and September 27th. During the meetings, the Nunavut Statutes examination and student at law experience survey results were reviewed, demonstrating the key issues raised by the students at law and membership on the current barriers for success for articling clerkships and bar admissions. The working group has been working on a number of tasks to address the concerns brought forth in the student at law experience survey. So 32.2% responded to the survey, both former and current students at law. High-level insights were reviewed, and there were some considerations that were specific to Nunavut that came up during the qualitative information. Housing being one of them. Housing came up repeatedly throughout the qualitative information. There was also an indication that there was a lack of infrastructure regarding the articling rotations, including forms, documents, procedures, and policies. Delays from hearing back from the LSN was also mentioned, and the responses from the students at law were inconsistent, as some people had no issues and some people had quite significant issues. Challenges with articling principles, given the high turnover in the north, impacted articling students. The arrangements shift due to the turnover. There was an identified need for more Nunavut-specific training, especially from non-Nunavut law program students at law. The results for this are being looked at further to determine if this need is being identified for all students at law who completed law school outside the territory or were they form a specific region. CPLED bar course took a lot of time and would like more hands-on training. 77.8% either disagreed or strongly disagreed that their bar admission course included valuable information about the unique requirements and in law in Nunavut. This is a quite high percentage. This could include CPLED or another program. 15.8% only completed one articling rotation, but 78.9% did complete two or more rotations. And this is something to consider when thinking about the bar admissions program moving forward in the uniqueness of the Nunavut articling process. The GN was the most frequent employer, followed by arm's length NGOs, followed by the federal government. Another area we received information about this was that 15.8% wanted to complete their articling in Ottawa, but were unable to. Technically, based on the LPA and rules, the students at law are supposed to complete their articling in the territory, and this is something that may need to be looked at further to determine if more flexibility is needed to allow the students at law to complete their clerkships outside the territory, especially given many Inuit-based organizations have offices located in Ottawa. Attendance at settlement conference and staff and office management were the competencies that students at law felt they least developed during their BARD programs. These are competencies that the LSN want students to develop, but the responses do not indicate that these were the competencies the students felt they least developed. There were reports of students at law not being paid for their articling. This has been flagged as is quite concerning. Several questions were asked about compensation, and some people did report they did not get paid at all for their clerkship. There was also significant variation in the number of days off during articles. This varied among jurisdictions, and it is not identified in the LPA. And as such, it has been left to the employer to decide, since the LSN does not have anything in the rules or LPA. 47.4% did not receive training in equity, diversity, and inclusion, cross-cultural competency during their articles. 68.4% did not have the opportunity to learn about cultural competency and or trauma-informed legal practice. 31.6% did receive this type of training, and it is a conversation the LSN has been having regarding these trainings. So the working group has been tasked with some action items to be completed before December 31st of this year. They include to review and approve a draft executive summary decision of how and when to present the information, to review and provide comments on proposed context, as far as paragraphs to be added to the student at law and principals webpage on the LSN website, and to review of the articling plan and make recommendations on updates. So Nunavut Statutes examination as a special examination. A 6-question survey was circulated to the members to get feedback from the membership before making a final determination about the Nunavut Statutes examination. 9 members responded to the survey. Of those 9 members who responded, almost half were resident members of the Nunavut Bar. 44.4% of the members who responded were non-resident. 1 member who responded was inactive. 3 respondents had been or were currently students at law in Nunavut, while 1 respondent was currently an articling principal, and 3 had previously been articling principals. Regretfully, none of the respondents identified as Inuk, First Nations, or Métis. Only 2 believed the current bar admissions program does not adequately prepare students at law for practicing in the territory. 3 respondents expressed confidence in the adequacy of the current bar admissions program. Meanwhile, 4 suggested the need for improvements. Most respondents favored developing a Nunavut-specific module as an add-on to the CPLED prep, and there was mixed feelings on creating a Nunavut-specific bar admission program. 2 of the respondents identified as 2S LGBTQI+, and 1 respondent identified as a visible minority. None of the respondents noted Tattoo or French as a first language. However, one respondent noted that none of Nunavut's official languages were their first language. When asked to rate the value of the exercise of reviewing and examining Nunavut-specific statutes, provides students at law on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 star is being not very valuable and 10 stars is extremely valuable. The average response amongst the respondents was 5.44 out of 10. On the question of whether an accompanying course should be created to support students at law taking the special examination, if the LSN decides to continue administrating a special examination for students at law, no respondents thought an accompanying course was necessary. However, 6 respondents thought an accompanying course should be created to support students at law undertaking the special examination, whereas 3 respondents thought that while they did not think an accompanying course was necessary, it would be helpful for students at law to have accompanying student materials to assist them with preparing for the exam. So, given the low response rate of the requests for feedback from the membership and the February 28th decision to abolish the version of the Nunavut Statutes examination, will be even more critical for the Articling Bar Admissions Committee to hold annual debriefing meetings with students at law and principals to better understand and identify challenges and opportunities. So as regard to the student at law principals web pages, from the student at law survey, 32.2% responded to the survey. 73.7% of respondents recommended doing a clerkship in Nunavut. Nunavut requires students at law to complete rotations through their clerkship. The ABA working group identified the need to make it easier for students at law to have all the relevant and necessary information online. The survey also indicated that the experiences of students in relation to their articling principles was very different. Some students did not meet with their articling principles frequently, and some did not get assistance with their articling plans from their articling principals. Nunavut has a unique clerkship program where students at law are able to complete a rotation during their clerkship, which allows them to experience different practice areas. The ABA noted that the current content on the LSN website regarding becoming a student at law does not provide potential students with enough context. The current webpage does not sell the experience for articling in Nunavut and the uniqueness and opportunities of the program. Additionally, the articling principle information is also quite cumbersome and does not lay out the requirements of the articling principles. The ABA working group discussed that the experience of students at law may be different in relation to their articling principles because of the lack of clarity around the requirements of being an articling principal. This was a need that was identified as a potential gap. The ABA working group will update the website with more clear information that allows potential and current articling principals to know the obligations and requirements of being an articling principal. As far as the articling plan review, over 50% of the respondents indicated that they will utilize the LSN's guide to develop their articling plan. Of the respondents who answered no, many utilized their organization's articling plan. The articling principals were involved in the creation of the articling plan to some degree. Students identified the following feedback: the need for the articling plan to align with the articling evaluations, particularly to track development of core competencies. Articling plan and evaluations are currently not set up well for multiple rotations or principals, and more opportunities were needed for both principals and students at law to disclose when there were issues or concerns during the articling process. Now, due to the feedback from the student at Law Survey, the ABA working group has identified the need to review the current articling plan to align it better to the unique experience of the students, especially with multiple rotations, and to align the articling plan and evaluation requirements to ensure students are meeting the requirements of the articling process. So what are our tasks moving forward? The suggested action items for next year include to review and update the evaluation process, CPLED remediation feedback review, and an articling principle survey. These are the suggested items for next year, but the ABA working group will review in the new year. And I believe that is everything we have to update at this moment. As I mentioned, Rebecca was supposed to be joining us. Santana, do you know if Rebecca ended up in the chat today?
Yeah, so she's trying to join at the moment, I believe.
Now, Rebecca's taken the lead with our working group, so I imagine she may want to address the group today. But if there are any questions or